Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about how to use Technology X for economic growth. And we have a really interesting use case when we're going to talk about Finland and Metaverse. Let me start by sharing my screen. Hope it works. Okay, how to use any deep technology for economic growth. If you're reading my book, and I hope you are, we are in section 3. And don't panic, I did not make videos of section 1 and section 2 yet, because I wanted to focus on the how-to first, because I think that's the most useful for most of the audience. And I've mentioned in a couple of videos, I think already, the call to action, the how-to section is actually 1/3 of the volume of the book. So there's a lot of material here that you can use for economic development needs. But I'm going to shortly walk through a use case today, how to make a change by using one certain deep technology. Call to action. So how to make a change. My suggestion is when you start to make a change, innovation-based economic development, you look at two things first. What the world needs. What are those pressing problems that everyone needs solving? Because first of all, you want to be contributing to the solutions. You don't want to be contributing to the problems. You also want to have a sustainable industry and sustainable economy, meaning there are people out there who are going to buy your products and solutions. So if you're solving problems that people have, you're creating a solid business base. And of course, you want to do ethically the right thing. Then you want to look at where you are and who you are. What are your own homegrown assets? And then finally, how are we bridging these two? How are we building, how we bring it together and building this economic growth? So in the book, I came up with something called innovation-based economic development architecture. And if you've listened to my podcast, you know that I love architecture. So this is, it looks like a Greek temple. It's supposed to represent a government building. So these are the different building blocks you as an economic developer should be looking at when you're thinking of doing an innovation-based change. So as I said, two things that are not directly in your control that you need to identify and assess. So first of all, what the world needs. So on the pediment of this, the triangle on the top is solving the big problem, what the world needs. And then on the grassroots level, you have your own homegrown assets, who you are and what you're good at. In the between, you have all these different building blocks that create the whole building. It's a solid foundation and solid pillars. You're looking at your local and federal government, micro businesses, they could be startups. Then you have your legacy industry, which is your support that's currently holding it together. And then as a government, you will want to do some innovation spearheads where you are taking a bigger risk and experimenting on areas where you can create new industries that then eventually will become the solid pillars, your legacy industries. So let's look at the whole picture through a case. This is a real case that I did for Business Finland, Metaverse and Finland. So looking at Finland, what are the homegrown assets? What does Finland look like? It's a really big country, 338,000 square kilometers. Almost 80% of that is forest and 10% is lakes. So that's a lot of nature. There's also a quite nice wealth of metals and minerals, iron, chromium, copper, nickel, and gold. So it's no wonder that the legacy industries, the legacy pillars that Finland has built its economic development foundation on is paper, pulp, timber, and the metal industry, iron industry, which further along turned into electronics industry. Cold, dark winters, short, light summers. So there's not a lot of agriculture there. Very good at ice hockey, other winter sports. The population is only 5.6 million people, so very small population, but extremely well educated. World Economic Forum ranked them number 1 in post-secondary education. And over 30% of these students that go to universities and other post-secondary schools study STEM subjects. GDP per capita is $58,000, so it's the 21st richest country in the world, or the population is richest. Credit rating is AA plus in the most top 3 at least ranking agencies. So big country, a lot of nature, not many people, but nicely educated, good financial resources, and the ability to borrow more money if needed. So what the world needs. This is a list that anyone can come up with. The problems are endless. We have a climate crisis. We have aging populations. There are threats on democracy, public health. Poverty is still out there. We are experiencing wars, clean water. And then we have new threats. We have introduced artificial intelligence, which we need to address in order for it not to become a threat. Disinformation is out there, which is technology-based, and so forth. So just pick your poison there. And then if you look at the middle section, so the horizontal foundation at the local and federal government on the left-hand side here, these are things that the government, in this case, the Finnish government, has done for their citizens, for the country to be a nice place to live. So they have invested in infrastructure, childcare, family support. They are working on foreign direct investment, attracting investments from other countries, workforce development. They are supporting R&D. They have several trade agreements. They are supporting the currency, the euro, together with other EU members, and so forth. And the next layer in the middle is a layer that I call micro businesses, could also be startups, but I also want to include all of the mom and pop stores and the hairdressers and all of the individual contributors that make the economic foundation of a country so solid that it is. So the list of things here are things that the government is doing in order for these individual entrepreneurs to feel safe and secure and have some sort of safety net, so it is easier for them to start businesses. So you have some direct startup support that the Finnish government is giving, for example. There's very nice allowances, housing allowance, student allowance. As a small company, you can be VAT exempt. You can be exempt from pension payments for some period of time, hiring support, parental leave support if you are a young parent and you want to start a company, or if you're a student and you want to start a company, it's easier in countries like this. And then the third, on the right-hand level, these are the innovation spearheads, as I said, high-risk projects that only the government can really enable. So there are things like direct R&D funding on scale for startups, for established companies, for them to research and develop something that they probably wouldn't otherwise do because the market need is not there yet. The market need is coming. You can foster public-private pilot programs on different things, like, for example, how we're going to make our maritime industry more innovative, how are we going to make our forest industry more innovative. Government is putting money there. Ecosystem building, so that's business support, supporting exports, talent boost, funding academic research, funding basic science, internationalization, and so forth. So these are the horizontal layers of support that the Finnish government is investing in their economy. So this was a case we wanted to look at metaverse because it was a topic where we knew, and when I say we, this was with Business Finland. Business Finland is the government's innovation funding agency, and they are investing in Finnish companies to carry out R&D in deep technologies. So of course they want to understand what would metaverse mean for the Finnish economy. And I wanted to define metaverse first. And the way I thought for this particular type of project, you want to look at the technologies because that's where we are. We're building innovation that is largely rests on technical foundation. And I found this model, The 7 Layers of the Metaverse by John Radoff. He's a brilliant thinker. I actually did a podcast episode with him on my Deep Pockets podcast. If you're interested, please look it up. So John Radoff came up with the 7 layers of the metaverse. He calls it the onion, where he is really looking at the different layers that you need to have in place in order to have a functioning virtual world, a metaverse. So these are things like infrastructure, human interface, decentralization, computing, creator economy, the experience layer, and so forth. And on the right-hand side, you have suggestions of individual technologies. And when I saw this model, I was looking at the technologies, and I could already start seeing that, okay, Finland has some companies working in this space and some university programs on this space. So this is interesting. Let's use this John Radoff 7 Layers of Metaverse as a framework for studying how Finland could benefit from metaverse, from developing it or productizing it economically. So I took all those technologies that you just saw on the right-hand side, and I compared them to existing industries, existing companies in Finland. We have on this picture, on my architecture building, I only drew 5 pillars, so I don't have 7 pillars, but you get the idea. So basically trying to find areas where Finland excels in this kind of a blowout chart of the metaverse. And it was actually surprisingly successful. So here's a picture that we came up with, the capabilities that Finland has in metaverse. And I was able to find companies on each of the 7 layers who are world-class in that particular group of technologies. So this is really kind of setting the foundation, kind of discovering that there is something there, and we could and should continue exploring it. So we've identified what the world needs. We've identified homegrown assets. Now, as a next step, now that we understand that Finland has capabilities in metaverse that are supported by the homegrown assets, we want to be orchestrating these existing resources and packaging this offering so that it answers on some or is solving some of those big problems and answers the requirements that you have in the marketplace today. And of course, the government's role there is to enable this innovation, and I'm saying inviting growth, because that's really what it is. It's the companies who will create the growth, but government needs to create those enabling layers and create those opportunities. To summarize, how to use any deep technology X, in this case, metaverse. Start from the external need. What are the needs that the world has? In the same way as a company, you don't really start a company by saying, I want to make money. You start a company by saying, oh, I want to solve problem X. That's in the same way you should start creating the economic development strategies. And then assess your own strengths. And then my suggestion is to dissect the opportunity, dissect the technology, be it metaverse, be it quantum, be it AI, blockchain, whatever it is. It is easier if you are a smaller country. Of course, if you are the federal government of the US or China, then you might have resources to tackle all of it at once. But if you're any smaller than that, I would just dissect the opportunities, dissect the technologies, and see if you can find those niches where you excel, and then find synergies between the need and what you can do to create the supply. I hope this was useful to you. I will be creating more videos like this. In the meantime, please like and subscribe the channel, and please do rate and review my book on Amazon if you do buy it. Thank you.